Hello folks, Sinow here, your new home for everything Resident Evil Resistance, and today I am bringing you a Mastermind build guide for Annette called the Buffette build. And the reason why we call it the Buffette build is that there is a range of delectable creatures utilizing a range of delectable enhancer buffs to do as much damage to the survivors as possible. This build is really fun to use because what happens essentially is that you create lots of really tough creatures and you manage to summon them fairly easily with a cost reduction card, and then eventually the survivors will find themselves increasingly outpaced by your ability to create zombies that they can't really deal with very reliably, and then you overwhelm them, overrun them, and you win the game. This is probably my favorite build to use as a mastermind at the moment, so I'm really excited to share this with you all. And I'm going to tell you how you can make this yourselves, what you need to level up to unlock the cards required to make this build, and then finally, the most exciting part of the video, I'm sure you'll all agree, I'll actually show you some of it in action. So how do we create this build? Okay, so starting off with our skills here. When it comes to G. Birkin, your bioweapon, I actually prefer to use the default passive here of Fury. This reduces the cooldown of Birkin if you exit his form early. This is much more useful than increasing the form of the duration because you want to cause some havoc here and get a couple of kills if possible with Birkin, and then dip back out of him again to keep resummoning more creatures to keep up the pressure on survivors. And I find that it's a lot more useful to be able to dip out of Birkin and get some benefit for it rather than staying in the form for as long as possible, because remember, as you're in the BOW form, you're generating bioenergy the entire time, so by the time that you go back out of Birkin again, you should be ready to summon another horde of deadly creatures. Works really nicely. When it comes to the genetic mutation passive, I prefer to use the buffs passive, which enhances the effects of all of your enhancer rounds, essentially, on your creatures. Unfortunately, right now, the passive effect of recovery, which allows you to heal creatures with enhancer rounds, it doesn't work too well because for two reasons. A, you want to try and buff up your creatures before the survivors get to them usually, and you can't heal them past maximum health, right? And B, I also find that it's quite fiddly to use enhancer rounds because there's a kind of load time before you can start shooting the enhancer rounds into your creatures, and then there's an unload time again. So it's hard to use this in the heat of battle, especially if the survivors are currently taking down your zombies and stuff. So I would really recommend you go for the buffs passive instead. It's a lot easier to use and more reliable. When it comes to the zombie apocalypse passive, I would say go for enhancement here, which greatly increases creature HP. This makes it so that the hordes that you summon down are a lot tougher to take out, and combined with the regen enhancer, which I'll discuss in a minute, this makes it so that your zombies can be quite tough to take down sometimes, especially if survivors get sloppy and they don't make sure that they've killed everything. You'll find that eventually your creatures regen their HP back up again and they become a kind of persistent nuisance. This also makes certain creatures like dogs more effective. I would also suggest taking enhancement over creature efficiency here because we have a mod that accomplishes the same thing as creature efficiency that I'll show you when we get to the cards that we use in the deck. When it comes to your Area 2 special card, I would suggest using the Zombie Dogs ×3 here. It is the zombie dogs are quite weak by themselves. A lot of people maybe are struggling to use them effectively, but I find that if you buff up the dogs and you have one or two other distractions in a room, they actually become they become like a chaos agent where they persistently run around and attack survivors. Particularly, they're very good at jumping on survivors from behind if they're trying to aim at a different zombie at the time. So I find that using zombie dogs ×3 really helps lend to the aspect of chaos that this deck is so good at creating. And if you give dogs the berserker rounds, then they become very hard to hit. They're very fast, so this works quite well. As for Area 3, this is kind of a no-brainer. You want the concentrated enhancer that allows you to apply all buffs to zombies for only a cost of 2. Very cheap. Very high value card, this one. Bit of a no-brainer. Concentrated enhancer. You want to go for this one. For your equipment, the equipment is a little brain dead for this build. You want Razor Claws 3, greatly increases the attack power of creatures. Virulent Claws, which slightly increases infection rate and also slightly increases their attack power. And then you want Razor Claws 1, which also slightly increases the attack power of creatures. Are you sensing a theme by any chance? I hope you are at this point. Yeah, we basically just want creatures to do as much damage as possible. I have found that Resilient Skin doesn't add as much health as you would maybe like to zombies, unfortunately, and with the way that infection works currently in the game, you don't really need viral canisters too much unless the survivors start taking like anti-infection skills, which maybe the meta will change in the future, but I find that Virulent Claws alone can actually do quite a lot of work in this regard. Augmented Limbs is also a very small buff. Like, you're going to have your creatures become very quick as a result of being affected by the enhancer for Berserker anyway, so you don't really need this in my opinion. Some people might try replacing something here with like Miniature Reactor, but I find there's a reason why I don't really think we need this, and I'll explain that in a second when we look at the cards. So let's go on to the deck of cards that we use here. You should notice already that it's mostly just creatures and enhancers. I'll cover these two cards in a second up here, but for creatures we're using Tough Zombie. Tough Zombie's like the bread and butter. We also have Zombie Infectious, again, along with Virulent Claws. I find that this tends to do enough to like get some infection down on survivors, which is a very powerful kind of passive ability that makes them lose time, and it also is so great when a creature is like kind of getting ready to attack a survivor and they start to cough and then they don't have the ability to shoot them and they are like very vulnerable. It sets you up for so much like chaos and damage. It really works well. Some people don't like liquors very much. I find that they're way more effective since the open beta days, particularly if you enhance them. They become like a real nightmare for survivors to deal with. I would say liquors probably aren't great to use in a lot of decks because they're very expensive and they're not great unless you enhance them, but for this build that we're using, they're perfect because if you put Berserker on them and maybe regen, they become like a really fast, aggressive creature. So liquors work really well for this build. Dealer is a great zombie card. It is like super aggressive, particularly again if you have Enhancer Berserker attached to her. She gets the zoomies basically, and she moves like super fast through rooms and attacks survivors. Bear in mind the dealer also steals umbrella credits from survivors when she attacks them. This is really important as it allows you to wear down survivors' stockpiles of grenades and things like that. And you'll find that a lot of the time survivors kind of run out of ammo and grenades if you constantly attack them with creatures correctly in this build, so it's good for wearing down survivors. It's also quite cheap. And then finally the Jester card. So the Jester is a unique zombie that is quite weak by itself. I think it has the same HP as a normal zombie, but what it does is it has the ability to let out a kind of a shriek that paralyzes survivors. I mean, it says on the screen right here, of course, if you can read. Not everybody is very good at reading, as we have known from some of the potato survivors that I've gone against previously in this game. The Jester is quite good in this deck because you can protect it with other creatures in front of it. So it works particularly well because it's kind of, you can put like a wall of phalanx in front of it, and it allows the Jester to let out those yells to keep stunning survivors. So it works really well here. Enhancers, so there's actually 4 enhancers in the game. I found in my testing that having 4 enhancers in the deck was just too much. There was too many moments where I was trying to cycle through them and not getting creatures down effectively, so I took out the Infectious Enhancer because I don't really think it's necessary, and I'm sticking with Enhancer Regen. This puts like a kind of pulse on creatures, and every time the pulse ticks it heals them. It's very useful, particularly if survivors are kind of sloppy, like I said earlier, about killing off creatures. They'll start to regen back up again, and that's when it starts to become a nightmare for them, because at that point the kind of pace of the game is against them. So this works really well. Enhancer Berserker, this is probably the most important one to put down, as it makes your creatures a lot quicker and therefore more aggressive, and therefore you're more likely to get hits on survivors, which is very important. Just be careful, because sometimes if you put Berserker on, let's say, a dog or a licker, they'll just zoom off. Sometimes lickers zoom off before you even get the chance to buff them up. But in particular, any zombie that's got Berserker attached to it will... I think it has like a larger aggro radius So when survivors are like a little bit further away, the zombie will detect them and start like running towards them. So for instance, if you're trying to protect the best zombie in the game, Yorick, the security guard in area 2, and you apply Berserker to him, it sometimes causes him to run out of a safe area into the open, so be careful with this one. Also, we have Energy Leech. So a lot of you might not know what Energy Leech is, because you have to unlock it on Spencer. This is a enhancer that allows zombies to steal bioenergy when they attack survivors. This is really important in this build because it allows you to get like kind of ramping up mechanic to it, where once you get a couple of zombies down that begin to attack survivors, you get more bioenergy back quickly and then you can summon more. So this is what really contributes to that feeling of the survivors falling behind your pace. And it's really fun, really effective enhancer to use to make you feel like you have the upper hand overall. So I would recommend going for this. Then for the non-creature enhancer cards in the deck, we have Discount. I like Discount quite a lot because sometimes you'll just use one camera to summon multiple creatures all at once. A lot of the time in this deck, you basically like pick a chokehold room with an objective in it, and you summon multiple creatures at once, and then you buff them all up. Unfortunately, Discount cannot make the cost of enhancers go down to 0. You always have a minimum of 1 cost, but it still is worth it in my opinion because of the creature cards here costing at minimum 3, if not 4 and 7. So I find that Discount is quite good for those moments when you want to like quickly replenish and get a new swarm of enemies down. And then finally, we're using Efficiency Mod Creatures. So this card is great, and it's the reason why you don't really need to take the passive of Creature Efficiency for Annette here. What this does is, as long as you keep this card in your hand, all creature cards that you draw have their cost lowered by 1. So this is great because it allows you to get more creatures down onto the field. And of course, because of the passes where they have more HP and we're buffing them up, this just really helps you get out, like along with Discount for instance, you can use one camera to really get out multiple enemies or creatures very quickly. So this is the build that we're using here. Not too complex or anything, it works really well. So before we cover the pros and cons of this build, let's talk about how you unlock all of the cards required to make this build a reality. Unfortunately, one of the cons of using this deck is that it requires you to level up Annette, Daniel, and Spencer, so it is quite level intensive, and if you have got RP boosters available, you're probably going to want to use them to try and get there a little bit quicker. For Annette, you're going to want her to about level at least rank 19. At rank 13 she gains access to liquor cards, and at rank 19 she gains access to the efficiency mod for creatures. I think actually I think the concentrated enhancer is maybe rank 22. I'm not 100% sure about that, so you might need to get her to rank 22 in order to be able to fully unlock the build. Although if you wanted to just use detonators in the meantime to like try it out, you could, I guess, but obviously you want to concentrated enhancer as soon as you can. As for Daniel, you need to rank up Daniel. At level 7 he gains access to the dealer zombie. At rank 13 he gains access, or you gain access should I say, to the enhancer regen card. And then at rank 19 he gains access to the jester zombie. So unfortunately you also need to have Daniel at quite a high rank in order to make this build a reality. And then finally for Spencer, you want him at rank 13 for the energy leech enhancer. If you wanted, again, to try out this build before you had that unlocked, I guess you could replace it with the infection enhancer, but I find that the energy leech enhancer is actually very powerful in this deck, so you really want to try and go for this as soon as you can, folks. So Annette to rank 22, Daniel to rank 19, Spencer to rank 13. Before we dive into the oh so fun gameplay of me stomping survivors with this very powerful build, when it comes to map presets, some of you might be wondering, I haven't actually set up my own map presets. I know, terribly lazy mastermind here, but I would say one thing you want to bear in mind when it comes to map presets if you decide to set them up yourself is that you don't really want to use too many landmines, because landmines when they explode will interrupt your creatures and knock them down. So if survivors come into a room and you get a grab and then somebody steps in the landmine, it can actually break you out of the grab, which is not great. Also bear in mind that any zombies that you have placed down in your map preset should be buffable, or you should be able to look at them with the camera so that you can buff them with the enhancer rounds. If you place zombies in areas where, like, maybe you want to set up in one room but you need to use a different camera to shoot a zombie that you already placed in your preset, you won't be able to use your enhancers on it correctly. So try to make sure that you can hit all of your creatures with one camera so that you can use your enhancer rounds on them effectively. Hi. Oh, these are the same people I played against. It's the Tyrone and the January. Oh, revenge. Revenge. I need it.
Your presence here was not an outcome I anticipated all these years ago.
Yes.
It was all a mistake. But I can erase that mistake.
So I'm gonna put the Jester. You want the Jester to be behind, presumably, right? It's like a support zombie. I'll lock this in a sec. Oh, it's already max level lock. I'm bad. Look how goofy the fucking Jester is. Remember, there's a good boy right here and there's a good boy over there.
I cannot sit idly by while you attempt to use that.
Fuck, 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 fuck. Okay, go, go, go.
I must fix this myself.
Oh, she's screaming! And then there was a fucking trap that went off there. If I had changed my preset, that wouldn't have happened. Damn, buffing creatures makes them so tanky.
You don't have to activate that.
I got creature mod. She's screaming again. Perfect. Yes! I actually really like the Jester. Don't stand in the doorway, please.
No. I do not make your peace.
Fuck you, Tyrone. Oh my god. Oh my god. These guys are getting rolled. I wasn't even paying attention to half of it. What's up, girl? Oh my god, guys, revenge has never felt so sweet.
Another death. This, I am surprised.
Roll the music.
I had been prepared for more resistance.
I've been prepared for more resistance. You see what she did there?
There is so much more I must do. But thank you for making this easy for me.
One of them DC'd. Wow.
Just as expected.
Just as expected.
Well, this took some time, but at least it is done.
Oh, that felt so good, chat. I'm not gonna lie. That felt so fucking good.
I cannot let you live. The work must end here.
I don't want to set. I'm gonna set up in here, I think. So you typically want the Jester to be behind the other lads. Okay, these guys are fast, so I'm not gonna take the piss. Make sure.
Activating that will take both your time and energy.
Quickly, quickly. Yeah, see that scream? It stunned the Becca.
Make your peace.
Nice, nice. Doing well.
Even as you fight, your end draws.
I didn't get Life Leech, which is a shame, because Life Leech is very important for keeping up the tempo.
These creatures should never have been made.
Here we go.
But at least they prove useful here.
Okay, Tyrone's down. Damn, this Becca's a problem. Oh, I'm trying to get a grab. Okay, I got a grab. Quickly switch the camera. Licker. Enhancer, Berserker, go. That's gonna be a pain in the ass for them to deal with. Tough zombie. Discount I should have used earlier. That was a bad time to use it. Whoops. Jester.
not sit idly by while you attempt to use that.
Back in.
I'll handle this myself.
Oh. Somebody's behind me. Quick Draw's got good stun on it. Very frustrating to play against sometimes. Out of bullets. Go around the corner. Oh, it was a really good try, was it?
Hey,
She's fucking stabbing me with a knife. She must be out of ammo.
let it take you.
You're down.
One of you has seen the
One of you has seen the light. Roll the music. Kill her.
I am.
Lock the door.
Surprised. I had been prepared for more resistance.
More resistance?
Let them destroy you and this will end.
I need to control you quickly.
Myself.
Oh, I missed. I shouldn't have used the claw slash there. I should have just used the normal grab. Oh, hubris.
Just give in.
I didn't expect him to run back like that. That was a shame.
Your continued efforts only place humanity in greater danger.
Grab from behind so you do immediate damage.
Even should you proceed, I will stop you yet.
Damn. You can actually control the Jester, by the way.
I will overcome your resistance.
I think the Screecher's quite slow if you do that, though, apparently. They're gonna get away with this one, but it was close. Oh my god, the liquor's like crawling on the walls and shit. Is it working? Come on. Get in there. Come on. Go. Lick. Licky boy.
So many of you are still alive. Very well. I must continue. You may be slightly nearer to freedom, but I will not.
I'm gonna put the Jester here because it will have a barrier in front of
Let
it.
me reach it.
I'm sorry. Is Yorick in this room? This is the first room!
Brutish. Not sufficient for this task.
Come on! Can I open the door, please? Thanks. How am I supposed to protect my king when he's like fucking front and center? Nice scream there, did you hear that? I used to make it so they can't just run away by locking that door. They're in trouble.
William, we must put an end to this terrible chapter.
I got a grab. Tyrone's looking really hard right now for Yorick. I can hear coughing, which is good. Nice. Tyrone has unfortunately discovered my boy though, who is by himself currently. Are you still alive? What the fuck? Okay, no, she's down there.
I would do anything to thank you for that.
January, open up. Oh, January. You can actually stun through the doors, by the way, if you do that. Okay, I'm gonna cancel. This Tyrone is like not doing a very good job. Yeah, he's like weak as hell.
have other cameras.
Am I winning? I can't tell.
Except
Get him, boys! Get him! Get him! Oh no, I'm fucking Yorick. Yes, let's go.
Easier to end.
Look at those good boys! They're good dogs, Brent. At least you're not dead. Don't know about that one. Yo, Yorick is doing work. MVP. My lad. Bitch, I swear to God if you kill... No, I don't think so.
Your life slip away. Give in.
Out of ammo. Oh no. No! Don't kill him!
Not imagine you can make it out in time.
Oh!
It is
I can't believe they killed him. I will have my revenge. Roll the music though. Now it's getting exciting. Put the jester here so you can't see it directly.
I'm a researcher, not a puppeteer of
Nice.
stinking corpses. You are forced
Managed to
in
interrupt
my
him at
hands.
least. Yeah, this music is hype as hell, man.
Let them destroy you and this will end.
A licker in this corridor will probably be a real nightmare for them to deal with. I just need to make sure I don't spawn it like on top of their face though. Okay. Shit, don't run away! I need to... Oh, Licky boy, you're too aggressive sometimes.
Where's my ammo?
Nah, dogs in here is a bad idea. Oh, I've been hacked. Not good. Oh, meanwhile though. She was getting owned. This is a close game, folks. Oh my god, my poor dogs. Oh, my poor dogs.
Don't let it go to your head.
I'm gonna try and hold them off at the door. Berserker enhancer, that's exactly what I need.
Change the balance here.
I basically need to tell them to get away from the door.
Eradicate all trace of our past, and then I shall also
Shit.
lay you to rest.
Just let it take you.
Okay, she's downed. Oh, she nearly got the healing off. She's gonna get it off. Oh no, she's down! She's down! Okay, I'm gonna win. He's down too. She's trying to do the door play on me. Oh, I messed up actually.
There is no escape.
Oh, I missed a flash bang though.
Another death.
Another death. Yeah, she can.
This is best.
Got him.
Plans.
Whew.
This went as I predicted.
Went as I predicted. GG's. Fun game. So what are the pros and cons of this build? Well, the pros of the Buffette build, I would say, are it's a fun build to play. It's really fun, actually. When you swarm the map and you have tons of really buffed up creatures and you can see, like, the survivor's hope drain from their eyes because there's just like there's two lickers constantly attacking them and there's dogs everywhere and there's like tough zombies running around and you're controlling something as well. It's just chaos. It's like the best kind of chaos. Such a fun build to play. I really can't recommend it enough if you like to use creatures effectively. Another pro of this build is that it's very powerful. It's very, very powerful, especially in Area 2. Try not to panic too much if you have a kind of rough Area 1. Usually, I mean, first of all, the way the game is designed, you're not supposed to consistently win in Area 1 all the time. because it wouldn't be a very balanced game if you could just always win in Area 1. And unlike, for instance, builds where you take control of a buffed zombie as Daniel and try and just kill all the survivors, I find that this build really shines in Area 2 where you get like the triple dogs and you have more time to set up. So yes, very powerful in Area 2, and you will consistently wear down the survivors' supplies, so you make it very difficult for them. Even if they get to Area 3, they might not have as many grenades stored up and things like that. So it's a more kind of late mid-game oriented build, I would say. Another pro of this build, like I mentioned earlier, creatures support William Birkin plays a lot. It's very easy to use him to get some survivors down or some kills under your belt, because with all of the creatures running around in the background, it's much harder for survivors to reliably stun and run away from him. Because they're much more likely to run into something that you've summoned and just generally take some damage. Some of the cons of this build, yeah, like I mentioned earlier, it does require quite a lot of masterminds to be leveled up in order for you to unlock it. So it'll take a while for you to get there if you've really just started playing. It punishes mistakes quite badly, this build. If you set up your horde and you buff it, and it's in like a poor location and the survivors maybe like use a flash grenade or two and just run past, you will have completely wasted all of your resources, and they can just like close the door and make it very difficult for you to get much value out of the creatures that you've summoned. Also, if you don't really set up, one of the ways that you want to play this build is that you want to try and pick a location and then buff all the creatures there ahead of time. So be very careful that you're not trying to set up in a room that the survivors will get to too quickly, because they will probably just kill off your creatures before you have the chance to kind of overwhelm them, and then you'll just be feeding the survivors time. So this build does punish mistakes quite badly, and you'll need to be quite good at picking areas in advance to protect so that you don't make these mistakes. Another con of this build is that I would say melee heavy survivor comps are a natural counter to this. So Tyrone and Samuel are really, really good at just kind of constantly swinging melee weapons over and over and like stun locking and dealing tons of damage to multiple creatures at once. So you will find that if you're up against Tyrone and Samuel, they'll probably give you the most challenge. Martin and Becca also have some really difficult skills to deal with. Martin's flash ultimate can neutralize a whole room of creatures. Becca's ultimate, or fever skill I should say, can also allow her to take down multiple creatures quite safely. But I find in particular Tyrone with his fever skill, where you don't take a lot of damage, and his kick can really like get past that initial moment where they're trying to get into a room. And Samuel just does so much damage with melee weapons that he'll be able to take down like a big group of them very quickly. So those are your natural counters, I would say, with this build. Okay, so that wraps up the Buffette build guide. I hope you guys really enjoyed watching this. If you did like the build guide, please do consider leaving a like or subscribing to the channel, leaving a comment, or just anything along those lines. I would really like to continue making more build guides for you in the future, so I really hope you guys enjoyed what you saw today. Regardless, I wish you luck in all your games coming up in Resident Evil Resistance, and take care. All the best. This has been Sinow. Goodbye.